Thank you for joining me, everybody. My name is Marcel, and today's video is going to be a bourbon whiskey thing. I'm going to try out a bourbon that I've never had before. I never heard of before because I haven't really explored much for bourbon. So this is going to be fun. This is going to be interesting. And as usual, grab a glass, pull up a chair. Let's talk about a whiskey thing. Today's whiskey is Blade and Bow, brought to us by Stitzel Weller Distillery, as it says 8 times on the bottle. Stitzel Weller Distillery was actually started in 1935. It was sold in 1972 and then mothballed in 1992, only to be reopened by and owned by Diageo in 2014. There's supposedly some original barrels from Stitzel Weller Distillery. Some of their original stock is used in the solera aging system. That we'll go over solera in a couple of minutes. It wasn't until I was editing this video that I realized that that couple of minutes that I was talking about, that we get back to talking about solera aging, that never happened. That couple of minutes turned into the whole video, and I didn't go back to that. I didn't get back to the solera. So I'm going to cover that now. I'm going to interrupt myself to talk about solera aging. So solera aging is mostly done in sherry wine and Madeiras and some other dessert wines, some other liquors. Whiskey, not overly common off the top of my head, other than good old Blade and Bow here. The Glenfiddich 15 Solera is the only other whiskey that I can think of off the top of my head that does Solera aging. And basically what that is you have it's sort of a tiered system of barrels, beginning with the youngest whiskey in the top and the oldest whiskey in the bottom. The bottom barrels are the Solera barrels. I think the Ciaderas is what all the barrels above it are called. So basically whatever is on the bottom, that is what goes into the bottles. So when that gets drained 20-30%, but it doesn't get drained, it never gets drained completely, and then it gets refilled from the tier above it, and then that tier gets refilled from the tier above it and above it and above it, up until it gets to the newest whiskey, and then that gets filled with a new make spirit or a brand new wine, or what have you. But then it goes all the way down. Solera systems, sherry barrels, a lot of sherry casks can last 80 years, 100 years, 200 years, up to 200 years. A cask can be refilled with sherry in the Solera aging system. So that's pretty cool. That's intense. But yeah, that's essentially what the Solera aging system is. And this here, Blade and Bow, uses the Solera aging system, and is supposedly, like I mentioned, the original stocks from Stitzel Weller are Pappy Van Winkle, Old Fitzgerald, E.L. Weller, I think. Anyway, that's not important. The original stocks from that, so the Old Fitzgerald, the Pappy Van Winkle, and the other whiskeys that the Stitzel Weller Distillery had, those stocks are supposedly are in the oldest stocks on the bottom. So a lot of what goes into this whiskey could be, like, it's not going to be that much. It's not going to be a whole hell of a lot. It could just be a teaspoon. It could be a cup. It could be, who knows. But yeah, so that's breakdown of the Solera aging that I was intending to talk about in the video, but never got around to. So let's get back to me. Why the name Blade and Bow? Well, Blade and Bow is named after I think it's so cool that that it comes with the little key. I'm a sucker for some packaging, okay? but the blade, which is the shaft of the key, and then the ornate bow. The 5 keys are representative of the 5 keys that had originally hung at the Stitzel Weller distillery, and also the 5 components of making a good bourbon, which is good grain, good yeast, good fermentation, excellent distillation, and good casks. And aging. Sorry. Distillation and aging. So that is about all I have for history and abouts and that of the bourbon. So you know what? Let's crack into it. Love the pop. Oh, the key stays. Nope, I am taking that off. I heard that they're collectible keys. You can collect all 5. It's whiskey time. Glencairn. When I say I'm new to bourbons, I mean I'm fairly new to bourbons because I'm new to whiskey. I'm new to exploring whiskey. I used to drink a lot of whiskey, but that's the thing. I only drank it. I drank it to get drunk. I had spent in one of my earlier videos. I did mention that I had spent 7 years not drinking. I was completely sober, didn't touch a drop. I had actually kicked hard drugs and alcohol for 7 years. It controlled my life, completely controlled my life. I was a Mickey for breakfast. I can't say that I had a sober day in I don't know how many years. It was really bad. I couldn't keep a job. I was not a functional member of society. And then I was turned on to whiskey or driven towards getting back into alcohol, having, I guess, a healthy relationship with it by none other than the Whiskey Tribe. If you don't know the Whiskey Tribe, it is a wonderful channel, very informative. Just a wonderful community. They encourage drinking responsibly. The dry weeks are a thing. Dry week is really important. It's just a time for self-reflection to make sure that you're not developing any dependencies, which I commend them for, and I join in on. Not because I feel that I need to, not because I feel that alcohol is taking control, because I am doing this it's purely educational, really, for me. I do enjoy it. I do enjoy some of the whiskeys. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of complexity and nuance, and there is a lot to whiskey, which is why I do this. Which is why I spend most of my spare time studying and learning, and decided that I wanted to share everything that's trapped in here that wants to get out. There was also a sensory analysis video by the Council of Whiskey Masters done by Charles MacLean, who is a world-renowned whiskey author, expert. He is a whiskey master, and one of my inspirations into diving into whiskey and delving into whiskey. It was actually Scotch that I started with. And then when I figured out and learned that I wasn't going to be drawn back by the old me, the one who absolutely loved just getting drunk. I actually haven't been drunk yet. I started my journey at the beginning of this year, beginning of 2025. And I have yet to be actually drunk. I've been buzzed. I've gotten a little tipsy, but I haven't actually gotten drunk, and I have no desire to get drunk. He did make a lot of bad decisions. And wasn't always the best person. It was very unpredictable how I would be when I was drunk, which is why I don't want to be that way anymore. but there's so much. There's just so much to whiskey. The science behind it is absolutely fascinating, wonderful to learn about. Anyway, I am getting wildly off topic. I'm starting to get personal, which is I am going to do. I'm definitely going to be doing this on this channel because I want to grow with you and I want you to grow with me and I want you to be part of my adventure. Spicy candy apple. There is a little bit of caramel in there, but the main tone, the main overtone of it is the candied apple. That crunchy with the crunchy red outside. It's definitely candied. It's spicy, and by spice, usually that's usually always like baking spices. You know, your cinnamons, cloves, nutmegs, that sort of thing. Yep, there's that that red candied coating on the outside of candied apples. Very prominent on this side of the glass. This side is more vanilla spice. Top of the glass is kind of weedy. And that was too close. Stuck my nose too far in there. Got a little bit too indulged. Okay. Got cherry, little sort of cornbread kind of a vibe to it. I'm gonna figure it out by the time there's something there. There's something there. I can't quite put my finger on it. Can't quite put the tongue to it. Mild apple. Got a little bit of apple in there. Vanilla, oak. Vanilla spiced oak. It's nice. It's complex. There's definitely complexity there. Forgot to do that prior to the pour. Now this one is only 45%, do you believe? 45.5%, 45.5% ABV, alcohol by volume. So don't need a lot of water. Something that's higher proof, like that Canadian Overproof blend. Things that are cask strength, you might need a little bit more water. Hell, you can even forget the pipette and just pour a little bit in there. Water helps to open things up, and especially if you are going to be doing multiple whiskeys, like many. You don't necessarily, you don't want to be nosing and drinking cask strength stuff the whole entire time. You don't want it to be riding up at cask strength the whole entire time. You and your nose will be dead. On the nose, opens up, it goes from that candy apple to cherry cornbread. It goes from what I was tasting, what was on the palate without water, is now on the nose with water. And not really getting much besides that cherry cornbread. The spice is gone, no more apple. It is still very lovely. It's kind of honey sweet, more than vanilla sweet. Cherry cornbread with a little caramel drizzled on top. And then toasted brown sugar. And washed out on the palate. Taste rye-y, but more just like a grain. More than having spice. Yeah, washed out with water. My opinion, straight, just neat. If you prefer a mixed drink, then yeah, this will make a good mixed drink. But this was Blade and Bow Bourbon Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey review. Thank you for joining me. Please subscribe, like, share. Cheers. Drink responsibly.